And welcome to Kiki's Best Friends Radio Show. That's Kiki's Best Friends Radio Show, our very first episode. And we are happy to be here on 10:30 a.m. The Voice on Sundays at 1:30 p.m. and also by all of your podcast adventures and streaming services. I am here with my co-host, Pastor John McLean.
Or Mr. John McLean, whichever makes you feel good. I mean, I'm not too vain to be okay that I don't go by my title, but I do like the title Pastor John McLean as well. Or you could just call me John, or like we were talking about before the show, if you're really upset with me, call me Jonathan Lee McLean like my mother would.
Absolutely. Yep. And as I was saying, mine is Christina Alice.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm, yeah, it has that particular way every single time. Yeah, I know.
God bless our mothers.
Yeah,
right?
I love them.
And John and I are here with Kiki's Best Friends Radio Show. It is a show that's going to be coming to you weekly with stories of friends who have survived their worst and are now living their best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, most of the people that I've been telling about how this was coming and just kind of the premise of it, they're excited. I mean, this is definitely something that's needed in the world, and I'm happy that your big brain thought it up.
Well, I'm really happy to team up with you and part of Veteran Rescue Mission and the Common Good Media lineup.
Yeah.
And it's just an absolute blessing.
Absolutely.
I would say my Kiki's Keys, we've talked about them on the other shows before.
Mm-hmm.
Kiki's Keys number 6 is you are blessed by being a blessing to others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we both are that.
We are blessed. And we are blessed with our very first guest in the show. Yeah. And this is Jonathan Matei.
Yes. Or if you want to just call me Big John, because I hit the gym all the time. So.
Big John. Oh,
man.
No, he's is it swole or swell?
He's swole.
He's swole. He's swole. Yeah, no.
Super
biceps
swole.
and everything.
Yeah. We're going to have an arm wrestling contest at
my
the end.
son Adam is Gen Z. He's shaking his head at home like, Mom, really? Swell again?
In high school, I actually had a lot of arm wrestling contests.
Oh, really?
For money.
Did you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I haven't been beaten by many, even though my 15, almost 16-year-old is 6'3", almost 200 pounds, and he goes to the gym like every day, hour and a half, 2 hours a day.
Really? Okay.
So I think he's trying to take the title. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's going to show you up in no time, but that's their job. That's what they do.
Right.
Yep. And as a dad, it's my job to humble him.
Well, speaking of sons and dads, that is what brings Jonathan, or Big John, to us today, is that Jonathan has written a book called Brave for Freedom. Brave for Freedom. I have to slow down to say that. But it is a story of a Romanian refugee and his journey to flee his country. And it is a story about Jonathan's father. And how do you say your father's name again? Is it Viorel?
Viorel Matei.
Viorel Matei. Tell us a little bit more about who Viorel Matei is.
So he is a refugee from Romania. He actually fled in 1991 to come here and find asylum in America. And it was rough patches, a lot, just trying to escape the country and everything. He was arrested, tortured amid the process of coming to America, and he finally did. And then just during the whole process, he was trying to raise 6 kids and of course take care of like my mom and everything. And it was very difficult, but it's been about 33 years since the escape, and no one really wrote a book about it. So I figured, why not write a book about a Romanian refugee, because not many people write about it. So I figured if I write about it, we'll see what happens.
Well, and then of course, being your father, you have that personal connection to the story as well. Do you find your father's story as part of who you feel you are in your identity?
Oh yes, because I'm a very courageous man. I love to take risks and everything, and that's what my dad did over 30 years ago. So it's a big deal, and I feel like my dad's proud of me, and I'm proud of my dad for what he did. And I'm sure many people around the world are proud too, because this book is sold in Australia, Italy, Canada. It's everywhere. So
nice.
Well, that's awesome. Cool. When did you write the book?
I wrote it 2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. So
interesting. And what was the motivation to write in the first place?
So not many people write a book about this kind of thing. So I figured if I just make a change and just try to impact lives, especially with what's going on in Ukraine and Israel and things that are happening right now, this book can be relevant and motivate people to be brave and find freedom in a place where freedom is either at risk or there's no freedom at all.
No, that's a really good point. Well, I had the pleasure of reading this book. I'm not going to invite a guest on if I'm not going to at least open it up. And Jonathan was very kind to give me my own copy. And I had started to read it at one point, and it was very emotional right at first. And I actually had to set it down for a little bit of time because it was stirring up a lot of emotions in me.
Right.
You're nodding your head. You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, because like while I was writing this book, I was kind of emotional myself. I was listening to ambiance, like lo-fi music, ambiance, this sort of like emotional music on YouTube, just kind of have that in the background.
Mm.
And but also thinking about what my dad was going through, because he told me the whole story when I was brainstorming and writing the book prior to writing it, and just everything that he kind of went through, especially with my childhood and everything. It just kind of just hearing the story of what my dad told me, because my dad would always tell me the terrible things that happened in his life over and over again. So I figured, why not write a book if he keeps talking about it? And he's very passionate about his life, so that's why I wanted to write this book. But that's the main reason why I was very emotional. Just the stuff that he told me, the torture. He was in prison, things like that. He was beaten and arrested, and especially towards the end of the book when he was captured in the cornfield. That was very emotional.
And where did that take place?
So it took place in Timișoara area.
Okay, in
Yeah.
Romania.
Yeah, and it was near the border area, and that's where he was captured. And there was this like a cornfield going on, and there was like this like Romanian police border patrol team that came to try to arrest him in this Jeep truck running through the cornfield and
Oh my.
running over the stalks and stuff. And they caught him and they arrested him and beat him. And yeah, so not many people survived, and those soldiers had the right to kill anyone who tries to pass the border. But and they had a rifle and try to like they put the rifle down his throat, threatening to take his life. But
How scary.
yeah, stuff like that. So it's definitely dangerous.
Now, you're talking about him now later on in the story when he's an adult. But just to let our listeners know, or for those who don't have a lot of history in this, Romania at this time, specifically in the 50s when your father was born, had been taken over by communism post-World War II, correct?
Right. Yep.
Russia, USSR had extended into Romania. And even as a young boy, when he was in grade school, you shared the story as if it's through your father's words.
Right.
And so I'm going to refer to the story, even though you are the author, as if he's saying it. And, you know, he's starting to recognize in his community and his own family that with the communists are having a like effect on his family. They have low food, they have low water. He's in grade school. They're having the electricity outages, and he's noticing these things, and he notices the horses that were killed from the communists for their meat.
Right.
And his father, he's also noticing, is reacting to his own forced military service for the communists and his own stresses through that and anger to your father's mother. So share a little bit about how that childhood shaped him towards that man who's running through the corn.
Yeah, so it was pretty much him just wanting a change. He was, you know, my dad went through a lot, but he just really wanted to like make a change. And he was, you know, my dad had the end in mind, and I think that's the best answer I have. He had the end in mind, and he just had this dream of having a family in America, freedom, and stuff like that. And he was just sick of it. You know, he was sick of the power outages. He was sick of the torture. He was sick of Ceausescu, President Ceausescu, and everything that was happening. But yeah, so you know, it was just like a constant thing that was happening, and you know, he saw that there was no end. And you know, there's people who study to be doctors, lawyers in Romania, but then yet they scrub toilets, and there's no future. You know, so you know, from a childhood all the way to his adulthood and moving forward, he saw no future. So he just wanted to leave, and he had that end in mind, and that's the best answer I have.
And just kind of from our notes here, it says in his own family, his father has returned from forced military service and is taking his anger out on his wife. You know, your father's mother, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then your father describes it as his mother being abused. How did witnessing this abuse within his own family shape his ideas and desires for better in life?
So like my dad, so you know, he did witness all those stuff with his own eyes and everything, and you know, he wanted to shape a better future, And like my dad still kind of carried it on, even with like me and my siblings, and he was a little bit like abusive still with my family. But the thing is, he still had passion. He still had this hunger for freedom, and he did provide for us and stuff like that. But it kind of impacted him like a lot, So
But it sounds like he had a turning point, though. Even with his own mother, that same evening, she's tucking him into bed.
right.
And I'm talking about on page 68 for those who are reading the books. If you don't already have this book, I recommend you get it. It is on Audible, and it is on Amazon and all of the book, options, Kindles, and all of that.
It's on Target. It's everywhere. So
There you go. Yeah, and it's called Brave for Freedom.
it's with the word for, not
yes. The F-O-R,
not the number for,
Brave, F-O-R, for freedom.
right.
And so in this book on page 68, his mother and him are reading the Bible, and they come to the verse Psalm 33. So we're going to come back after the
a little teaser for the listeners.
We are,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about how that verse, just that verse alone, and that introduction to the Bible really shaped a lot of his bravery going forward.
Perfect.
And again, we are here with Jonathan Mattei, the author of Brave for Freedom, for F-O-R, Freedom. And we couldn't be here without our sponsors. Thank you to Heidi Overton with Heidi's House of Wellness, Sarah Souders Luxury Real Estate specializing in Oro Valley, and definitely check out Sarah's new magazine, Oro Valley Homeowners, the best reference guide for any new homeowners or those looking around in Oro Valley, Arizona, and Fork and Fire Restaurant, offering Sunday night trivia starting this Sunday, January 7th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., hosted by yours truly. I am Kiki Rogers here with my co-host, Pastor John McLean, and we will be back after this break. And we're back. This is Kiki Rogers with Kiki's Best Friends Radio Show, a show that brings you weekly stories of friends who have survived their worst and are now living their best. I'm here with my co-host, Pastor John McLean. And we also, I can't be here without our sponsors. And I want to thank Heidi Overton with Heidi's House of Wellness retreats and opportunities to have a personalized wellness approach to your life. And Sarah Souders, Luxury Real Estate, specializing in Oro Valley with the new Oro Valley Homeowners magazine. And Fork and Fire Restaurant of Oro Valley. They have Sunday night trivia from 6 to 8 p.m. hosted by yours truly. Yeah,
that's going to be a fun time.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I already got
excited.
The whole first January 7th is all ready to go. And I was doing some computer programming for me where I used Excel to create a mail merge into a Word document that would auto upload onto my PowerPoint. That's my element of coding, guys. That's about all I know.
High speed for me. I mean, that sounds pretty high speed.
That
right
and
there.
Pivot charts and Excel are my favorite things in the world. I'm a
I
nerd.
could see that. I could see that. Yeah, I've actually seen a few of your presentations. So yeah. you like doing.
You've seen some of my early presentations where I think it was like 187 slides. We're down to 19 now
That's
for
good.
the business.
That's better,
That's a good
for
thing.
sure.
And we are here with Jonathan Mattei.
Yes.
Hello again.
Hello.
And he is sharing his story that he wrote in the story Brave for Freedom. Brave for Freedom is a book about a Romanian refugee in his journey to flee his country, who happens to be Jonathan's father.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at it, I haven't unfortunately got the chance to read this yet. Kiki hasn't let me put my hands on it.
Last
yeah.
night,
Okay.
So it's
well, then I'm going to be reading it
next.
soon. But just in looking at it, it looks like you're a really good writer.
Right. I'm very passionate about it. And
this isn't your first book, correct?
Well, it's my third book, but I also have the dust jacket hardcover format. If people like to hold the book with a hardcover, that's an option too.
Because you see my book there on the opposite end, and I love my book, and I think it's pretty well written, but I can tell just by looking at your book, you're a better writer. But so I definitely look forward to reading it, and definitely from what I've heard of the story, it's such an inspiring story, and I'm really proud of you, and it's a an honor to meet someone who's done something so kind of heartfelt in regards to telling your dad's story. Because I certainly I think we all have a story within us. I know my dad has a cool little story too. Hopefully I'll have the gusto to write put his story down in documentation so the rest of the world can see it for years to come.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely, and like it takes passion to do something like this, and it's exciting. It takes a lot of passion and excitement and commitment. But yeah, it's exciting to see that it's now finished and people are buying it. And
Well, we're really excited to talk about it today, and I was excited to read it. And Pastor John, of course, please do borrow it because I loved it.
I need a good read.
And I'm not a strong reader. I read to fall asleep. That's about it.
That's surprising you say that, because I mean, you're as articulate as you are, how well spoken, like kind of as thought out as you were. I'd be surprised you didn't read more.
Not at all, actually. Audible has been my best friend in the world.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Kiki's Best Friends radio show.
Yeah.
But, Audible's, but no endorsements or anything there. But I really do appreciate books on tape and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is I'll put it on while I read the words because I'm a visual learner and I have to see how the words are spelled to remember them. Mm-hmm. But I have to have it read to me to be able to keep staying along.
That's interesting. I've never done that before. I'll try that out.
It makes it very helpful for me. But nonetheless, I enjoyed this book very much. And I found it to be a very easy read. You wrote it almost from your father's point of view as a first person.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it reads like a story. You go through the conversations he had with his siblings and his cousin growing up, and with his first wife, and then different influences and people he had in his life. It reads very easily, and it is like a day probably read for most people, or a weekend read for someone like myself. It is a very easy read to get through. Tell us a little bit more about your writing process and how that inspired.
You had a teaser before we went to the break.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. See, it's our first show. There's my first
blooper.
That's
why you have me.
I do. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. So we'll get back to about the book writing process. Okay. But I just have so many questions. So I'm engaged and excited. We talked though about your father. Then was in his bed being tucked in by mom. Mm-hmm. Mom just got literally beaten in front of him by her husband, his father, who's dealing with post-military, probably PTSD, undiagnosed at the time because it's post-World War II, right?
Right, yeah.
And they're reading the Bible together. And he doesn't really understand the Bible or know the Bible. But she reads Psalm 33. He's about 5-6 years old and remembers that forever.
Yeah, and actually my dad was not saved at the time, but his mom wasn't his mom was kind of reading Bible verses and stuff like that out loud and to my dad, but that's what happened. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm on page 68. It says, "Then we read together through Psalms 33. It talks about how fitting it is for the godly to praise the Lord and to sing for joy." And then at the top of 69 it says, "The experience was something I had never experienced with any other book. There's something powerful about the Holy Bible."
Right. Yeah, and it just like shines a spark, like this light, because like my dad saw his father beating his mother and stuff like that, but like amid the whole him witnessing the beating, like there was this like light that was shining because of what he remembered with the Bible verse.
Yeah.
So it was,
and that kind of carried with him then.
Right, forever. Yep.
So he was still in Romania. We're fast forward now. He's now grown up, young man, gone through already military experience himself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he meets a pastor in a Baptist church in Romania. First of all, it's like 1984 was that?
Yeah, 1984.
1984. Tell us about how he got in touch with a Christian organization to begin with in a communist society in which Christianity is banned.
Yeah, sure. So it was this Baptist church called the First Baptist Church in Timișoara, and it was for like a youth conference going on, and it was Pastor Paul Magrutte, and he was the pastor there. But over the course of time, my dad Varel actually ended up getting baptized, and he gave his life to Christ, and then he was involved in Bible studies and stuff like that. And there was a lot of youth over there, like 15, 16, 17, like just like some 20-year-olds, but there was like a lot of people with holding their Bibles, and they were very nice to him, very kind. And he was excited.
He says in the book, or you share his story through the book, but he says in that how he was comparing his Christian friends with his non-Christian friends,
right?
And saying, well, my Christian friends treat me kindly, my non-Christian friends swear at me and give me a hard time all the time, say nicely.
Yeah.
And he could see that difference in that.
Oh, he could. Yeah, and that's why he was just hungry to just pursue the Lord, especially with how people are treating him in the Christian arena. So he just wanted to meet new people, make friends at the church. So yeah, it was definitely good for him.
And how would you say that made a difference for him?
He just wanted to change his lifestyle. He wanted to impact his parents, because like his parents were not necessarily saved. Like his mom was calling out Bible verses and stuff like that. She was interested in the Bible, but she didn't really have like this genuine relationship, and but then over the course of time, like later in my dad's adulthood, he actually influenced his parents to get saved because of his lifestyle. So
How amazing.
Nice.
right.
So
That's
let's talk a little bit about what he needed to do then to get out of Romania. If you don't mind sharing about that, like what was the pivot point that got him to that cornfield where he's running for his life? Romanian cops are coming after him. He's imprisoned. How does he transition from in prison to then fleeing, coming to America?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So it was my dad and also my uncle, Victor Marion. He was also, them two were kind of discussing how to escape and stuff like that. But more so, it was actually him and three of his other friends. I can't call the name right now, but it was him and three of his other friends. They were going into this border town in Romania, trying to get to the other side of the country, and they got caught in the cornfield. Even though they're very quiet, trying to like pass through, but they got caught and then they got tortured, stuff like that. But my dad was actually treated nicely with some of the soldiers, but still, it wasn't until his second attempt when he finally fled.
Okay, and that was in 1991.
So it was with his wife and 2 daughters.
Interesting. And so, we have probably about I'd say another minute and a half till we jump out of here. But what are some of your other books that people can kind of look into, and how can people kind of just connect with you that are interested in your stuff?
Sure. Yeah. So my first book is called Live Like You Are Predestined. So you can find that on Amazon. I have audiobooks too with that. And then the other one is called The Best Family.
Okay.
And there's an audiobook on that too. Amazon, stuff like that. And so you can also keep up with me on Instagram, social media. So it's John Matei. So it's JON MATEII. So on social media, so you can keep up with me there.
2 I's at the end?
Yeah.
MEATEII, John, Jon, Matei.
Yeah, it's also Matei with M as in Mary, A as in Apple, Matei.
Alrighty.
Nice.
And then just for our listeners, of course, there's a lot more to the story about your father coming to America, falling in love with your mother, restarting his life, and how he used those experiences from Romania into starting a life here in America. So I encourage all of you, please get this book. You can just go right on Audible or Amazon right now on Kindle and get this book, Brave for Freedom, Jonathan, Jonathan, Matei, Matei with 1 I.
Yep.
And get this book, and you can read the end of that story and learn more about how his father rebuilt his life. But if you were to give one piece of advice your father would have for our listeners, one thing to give them that hope, what would it be?
He would say to just just keep God first, and always have the end in mind. Be passionate, be hungry for success, and to make a difference in people's lives.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, Pastor John, my co-host, for being here. Thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Heidi Overton with Heidi's House of Wellness, Sarah Soder's Luxury Real Estate, specializing in Oro Valley with the Oro Valley Homeowners Magazine, and Fork and Fire Restaurant, Trivia Night Sunday nights from 6 to 8 p.m.